Hey, what is up everybody? It's Animac here for Anime Uproar, and we are at a massive crossroads in the MHA manga. Things are getting extremely hype, but also extremely dark and deadly. Bakugo just paid a very high price for choosing to fight Shigaraki in close quarters. He is severely injured and he could be killed at any moment. On top of that, the big three are together again and they're about to engage Shigaraki in an attempt to save Bakugo's life. But this has raised major death flags for the big three as well. And then of course there's All For One, Deku, Toga and Deadman's Parade, Dabi's shiny chest, and so much more, so let's get into it. You guys know what to do, leave a quick like and comment right now to support the video in the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to support the channel directly, take a second to subscribe and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. I know it sounds like a little thing, but it's actually a big thing on YouTube and it helps us out a lot. Finally, this video will of course contain Boku no Hero manga spoilers, so please proceed with caution. You have been warned. Chapter 359 begins with a colored cover page that shows All For One apparently reverting back to his prime, something that was already strongly hinted at a couple of chapters ago. We see All For One grasping for Deku as an angry Deku grasps for him as well. And All For One still seems to have a part of his normal villain costume on, although it is in pieces, as if it's either coming apart or putting itself back together. But underneath the pieces of his costume, we can see that the injuries he suffered in his first big fight against All Might have been healed. His hair is back, his face and his eyes are back, and he looks more sinister than ever. Even though the latest chapter doesn't show us what exactly happened with All For One and Endeavor because the focus is on the fight against Shigaraki, this is definitely some serious and dark foreshadowing on the cover page. Not only is Shigaraki an absolutely overpowered monster with an artificially engineered superhuman body, but now the original All For One is apparently back in his prime. That is just too much for the heroes to handle, and Deku really does need to do something fast, or else the villains will do irreparable damage. As OP as Deku is with One For All and all of his different quirks, he can't bring people back from the dead. And if he doesn't get back to UA soon, he might arrive to find that some of his best friends and classmates are no longer among the living. Speaking of Deku's friends, the previous chapter ended with Bakugo using his new ultimate support item, the suppressive heavy mobile unit Strafe Panzer, to launch a massive cluster bomb attack right at Shigaraki. The attack was launched at very close range with the intent of dealing as much damage to Shigaraki as possible without destroying the entire floating UA compound. And in order to achieve this, Bakugo had to take the risk of getting up close and personal to Shigaraki, but more on that later. In the latest chapter, we get a glimpse of what is actually going on behind the scenes, or I guess under the scenes of the floating UA building. Heroes and hero students are rushing to repair damaged equipment in real time in order to keep the UA flying as it continues to sustain damage from the battle taking place just above the school grounds. The fact that Shigaraki turned himself into a huge clump of mutated flesh is weighing the UA building down, and it is rapidly losing altitude. Those who came up with this plan clearly didn't take into account all of the extra weight that Shigaraki would bring with his mutation power. So now everyone has to work extra hard just to keep the UA from crashing to the ground. As all of this is happening, the UA management course students are making a documentary about everything that's going on because they want to document this epic battle and make it available for future generations of heroes. I honestly forgot that this department even existed, and this whole scene of them documenting what's going on seemed kind of weird and tacked on. But okay, whatever. I guess Horikoshi wanted to remind us that, yeah, this department actually exists, possibly because some of them are not going to make it through this fight. So instead of just having like a bunch of faceless casualties, Horikoshi is reminding us of who these guys are. That is just speculation on my part in terms of these guys not making it, but we'll have to wait and see what Horikoshi plans on doing with these guys in the end. Back on the battlefield, just above the UA, we see the end result of Bakugo's massive explosive attack, which he launched mere inches from Shigaraki's face. Bakugo did not want to attack from a distance. He wanted to get up close and personal, even though this obviously posed a massive risk to his own body. But Bakugo didn't decide to do this because he wanted to stick it to Shigaraki by getting up in his face. He decided to take this risk because the nature of Bakugo's attack required him to get up close in order for the attack to be as effective as possible. We then see a massive blast erupt in the spot that Bakugo attacked Shigaraki. But although the explosion is extremely powerful and massive, most of the explosive force drops off the edge of the UA compound and it doesn't destroy the compound itself. Several students were concerned that Bakugo's attack will do just that. That it will damage the UA structure or the power lines that they've been using to keep the force field up. But Kaminari tells them not to worry. He says that despite his over-the-top hothead persona, Bakugo is actually extremely careful and meticulous in battle. He is not the type of guy who would disregard his surroundings and recklessly put his allies in danger. And I mean, that is 100% true. Bakugo deliberately used a highly condensed blast that maximized the energy output while avoiding collateral damage to the environment as much as possible. But in order to attack Shigaraki with such a highly condensed blast, he had to get as close to Shigaraki as possible, as I mentioned earlier. As a result, Shigaraki was able to grab Bakugo's arm, which allowed him to avoid the full brunt of the attack. Bakugo also came close enough for Shigaraki to seriously injure him. Not only did he grab and injure Bakugo's arm, but he also seriously injured the right side of Bakugo's face, which is now covered in blood. And yet, even after that impressive attack, which was clearly the strongest attack we've ever seen from Bakugo, Shigaraki says that he still has no interest in Bakugo. Best Jeanist, Miruko, and the other heroes try to jump in and help Bakugo out, but Shigaraki just repels them all using more of his creepy mutation powers. He tells them that the only thing that trying to fight against him up close and personal is going to get them is a taste of what it's like to be smashed by a power that rivals All Might. We then see an injured Bakugo on the ground, and he seems to be second guessing himself internally. He is asking himself whether the gap between him and Shigaraki really is so vast that he can never bridge it no matter how hard he tries. After all, Bakugo believes that he had just given his all to that attack, that this was his absolute best, and yet it wasn't even close to being good enough to take Shigaraki down. Now, to be fair, Shigaraki did suffer some burns and other injuries, including to the right side of his face, and at the moment he can't regenerate because of his quirks being erased, so that damage is still there. But realistically, Shigaraki is still in much better shape than Bakugo. Then, as if to add insult to injury, Shigaraki tells Bakugo that the only thing that makes him even a little bit interesting is the fact that he is Deku's best friend. Wow, bro. Wow. This is literally the worst possible thing that you can say to Bakugo. Shigaraki basically just called Bakugo a side character to his face. And if there's anything that Bakugo rejects, it's the idea that Deku is the main character and that he is just a side character. As Shigaraki approaches Bakugo, probably intending to finish him off for good, we see that Aizawa is extremely worried. He screams at Mandalay to report on Deku's status, but Mandalay isn't able to reach him because the electromagnetic waves from the barrier are messing with her signal. So all she can hear right now is static. Aizawa cries out for one of the other heroes to please save Bakugo before Shigaraki can reach him. Bakugo still has his whole life ahead of him. He still needs to graduate from the UA and then pursue his dream of becoming the #1 pro hero and the main character. But it looks like the ones who are going to help Bakugo are not the pro heroes, but rather fellow hero students. Sun Eater and Nejire have both taken damage in this fight already, but they step up to the plate to fight again. Sun Eater says that he also wants to have a proper graduation ceremony, so they have to get Principal Nezu to throw them one after all of this is over. The students then wonder if they're going to make it. Is their eventual graduation going to be an actual graduation ceremony, or is it going to be like a VTuber graduation, if you know what I mean? And that is when my boy Mirio emerges from the ground. He says that he doesn't know whether the three of them are going to make it through this, but whatever happens, they will keep everyone else safe until Deku arrives. As the big three prepare to take on Shigaraki in order to save Bakugo's life, the chapter comes to an end. And yo, Mirio is finally here. Speaking of which, where was he all this time? Was he like helping out beneath the surface with all the technical stuff in terms of keeping the UA afloat? Or was he preparing some secret strategy for defeating Shigaraki? As arguably the single strongest hero student who doesn't have one for all, you would think that Mirio would have been one of the first to be sent out to fight Shigaraki. So could the delay in sending Mirio out be related to some special strategy? I mean, theoretically, Mirio's quirk should be really effective against Shigaraki's mutations because at the end of the day, they are just a physical power and Mirio can pass through physical objects at will. I honestly can't wait to see what the big three have in store for Shigaraki. And I do feel that Mirio probably has a strategy up his sleeve. A strategy that will involve tapping into the full potential of his quirk. However, I do want to talk about what Sun Eater said. That whole thing about hoping that they will actually get to graduate together, because that could end up being a major death flag. Like yes, right now the story is leading us to believe that Bakugo is the one in immediate danger of losing his life. But Bakugo is such a major character that I just don't see him dying in this battle. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I would be extremely surprised if that happened. That said, I would not be surprised if, say, Sun Eater or Nejire ended up dying in this fight, especially after that somber comment by Sun Eater. I certainly hope that Mirio won't die, since he's literally one of my favorite characters in the entire series, and he's been through so much, and Eri needs him, okay? Eri needs her big bro Mirio, so he has to make it. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Could Bakugo actually die in this fight? Could one or more of the big three die? Oh, and no, I don't think that Bakugo's facial injury means that the second One For All user is Bakugo from the future who went into the past. I know this is an extremely popular theory, but I feel like it's a different type of injury, and the theory in general is too crazy for me to get on board. That aside, I am now extremely curious about what's going on with All For One and with Deku, and how all of these different plot points are going to come together in the end. Remember, we now have at least 5 major plot points unfolding at the same time. We have the battle against Shigaraki, the battle against All For One, Deku trying to get back to the UA, the battle on Okuto Island where Toga could initiate Dead Man's Parade at any moment, and of course the battle against Dabi, which appeared to be over, but then Dabi's chest began to light up in a strange way. When you think about all of these different plot points and how they all need to actually be resolved and then come together in the end, I feel we're still a long ways away from the final chapter of this manga. Let me know if you agree down below. I always love hearing from you. If you enjoyed this Boku no Hero video and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like and comment. It only takes you a second, but it helps me out a lot. And if you're new to Anime Uproar, or maybe you watch our videos but you just haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, do me a quick favor and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. It might seem like a little thing, but it's a very real way of directly supporting the channel, and it's totally free. You can also hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Anime Uproar. I want to give a big thank you to all of our Anime Uproar patrons for making videos like this one possible. Special thank you to Kyle Salisbury. This man is an absolute mad lad and a disciple of Lord Twigo himself. And I can't forget all of our The One tier patrons, the ones who rise above all other clans, including Alpha Sigma, Pate Hefa, the Red-Haired Fox, Hinokami and Water, the Toasted Chi, Cory McGowan, the Fallen Chosen, Orihime Wukong, Dante Tennell, and Baked Buddhist. Finally, thank you also to our Pro Hero tier patrons, including the one and only Gilgamesh, Angel Cruz, Alicia Octor, Bunny Parks, Fatboy Games, Kaido Might Be a Duck, Ali Vania, and Anime S Code M. If you guys enjoy our videos and you feel that they provide value to you, consider supporting us on Patreon. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys!